Welcome back to the Life Chapel Podcast. This is your host, Grant Perry. I'm here with the pastor, the Reverend Jonathan Perry.
We're here today, man. Well, this is a great week.
Yeah, it is.
Except this cold weather.
Yeah, at least it's sunny, though.
This is true. I woke up this morning early, and I was making Sharon's coffee, and I said, hey, the sun's shining.
Yeah.
So
it's a
that
nice
counts.
Morning. Yesterday was awful.
Yesterday was pretty rough.
I'm sick of yesterday.
But that's a great day to kind of bury yourself in work.
Yeah.
And just like act like it doesn't, nothing exists. It's just like I'm working.
Yeah, we put this dresser together for Adley.
Oh, the dresser?
Oh,
was it as
word.
hard as Brooke said it was supposed to be hard?
It was much harder than Brooke could have ever imagined. It was the worst thing I've ever dealt with in my life. It took 3.5 hours to put together. I mean, it
400 pieces.
It was unbelievable. Like it was just so infuriating.
That just makes you know it's just easier to go to Walmart and just buy one already put together.
Yeah, I made Brooke swear that she will never purchase an Amazon dresser again, or wherever it came from. I don't
Wherever
know.
this come from.
Never go there again.
Probably come from China.
Yeah.
They're punishing us. They're like, we'll get even.
Yeah.
The Swedes are working on them through IKEA. Is it the Swedes?
The Swedes. Denmark? Denmark? Yeah, No,
That's
not
not-
Switzerland.
Where's IKEA from?
Oh, you just made me
it's a
forget.
Nordic country.
It's a Nordic country.
So all the Nords.
All the Nords.
The Nords are saying, let's get those Americans.
Yeah.
And the Chinese are like, hey, that's such a great idea. We'll jump on the bandwagon and we'll just wear them out.
And for some reason, we just keep buying it.
We keep buying it,
to put it together ourselves. So we've got a good podcast here for you guys today.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about the new schedule when we start services back up. A lot of good stuff. And then we're also going to be talking a little bit about the Bible. Brought my big one today.
Yes.
So we're going to be getting into some of that. I'm probably not going to be too much help in this podcast today. I have been neck deep in the Nephilim, studying the Nephilim for like 3 days.
I don't even know what that means.
The giants in the Bible in Genesis.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're into that now.
I'm into that. Man.
Bigfoot's next.
No. Okay, this is the Bible.
Yes,
The guy
I
I'm
agree.
listening to, his name's Michael Heiser. He says, if it's weird, it's important. And I'm like, this is a guy I can get on board with.
Interesting. If it's weird, it's important.
So what happened was
Then
working.
I'm important
Yes, that's true.
because I'm weird.
We're working to sell the old house, and I'm so we've
Touching
been
up,
painting
yeah.
and stuff like that. And so I was painting yesterday, and there's a 4-part series, 1.5 hours each lecture.
So that's 6 hours.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I finished it yesterday. It was unbelievable. It's amazing.
Wow.
Now, one thing he does draw out is he draws out, and this is actually preachable, I think.
Uh-oh.
He draws out the race of giants, and he brings out the name where we don't always recognize it. And the 3 people that conquer the race of giants are Moses, Joshua, and David.
Yes.
Each of them conquer the race of giants, and David's the one to finally finish it off, and end the race of giants. And so he brings out how the race of giants. Anyway, I won't get it. This is why I'm not going to be
just with that.
Yeah.
I could preach it.
Yeah, and then he
preach it.
brings it to what Paul says about Jesus and makes this connections between giants and the names that Paul uses, and Jesus conquers the powers of darkness. And oh man, it's just so.
Yeah, I could see that preaching for a while.
Yeah, I mean, you got to listen to 6 hours of lecture to get there,
Oh
but
man, see, that's the challenge.
no. So that's and you know me when my brain gets on something.
Yes.
I cannot think about
It's
anything
singular,
else.
focused.
All I want to
Singular
talk
focused.
about. Yeah, all I want to talk about
But you
is
get that from me
the race of giants.
because
So,
I get into that too.
Yeah, the good thing is you are more practically, singularly focused.
This is true.
So
I'm,
what
I'm
are you?
more about like a piece of wood from Menards.
Right.
I got to get a piece of wood from Menards.
Right.
That's my singular focus
Right,
today. Today.
Yeah.
I got to get a piece of wood from Menards.
Yeah, and I think that's what, this morning as I was setting up, you were talking about something, and then
Yeah.
I was talking about something. I think we met head to head on our singular focuses, and I was not interested in what you were saying,
know.
just to be honest.
So
So what are you singularly focused on? Because
Well,
it's
right
about
now-
Life Chapel.
exactly. I'm trying to get us back to church.
Yeah, I know.
So May the 17th is our relaunch.
Right.
We're not starting a series on giants on that Sunday. I promise.
We might be. We're talking about it.
So May the 17th, we're starting back with 2 services. I've been on every week. We've been having a team lead meeting on Saturday nights.
Yep.
So I've been keeping them up
And
to date. They're all ready to get back.
Life Chapel staff is what that is.
Yes, Life
Yeah.
Chapel staff.
Yeah.
Hospitality, youth, next steps,
All the departments.
children, all that stuff. Yeah. So they're all ready to get back.
Yeah.
Last night I met with the care team on Zoom, and they're
for
all ready to get back.
For those who don't understand, what does our care team entail? What is
So
that?
our care team is a group of people that would basically be biblical deacons, not religious deacons like you would see today.
Okay.
But biblical deacons in that they care for the people. So they, even during this time, they've been making calls. They've been helping older people. Like some of them will actually take their iPads to the older people's homes to help them see the service.
Right.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Looking after the needs, people that are in need, prayer request,
Mm-hmm.
surface counseling, no deep counseling. We have certified counselors on the care team,
Right.
which do that. But in general, they can just encourage people. We got people that are working with those struggling with addiction right now. A lot of people struggling with addiction. One of the reports that came in last night is, people struggling with addiction. I'm working with these people on almost a daily basis.
Yeah, because this is a time, and I think this is where the church has to.
This is where the care team is most important.
Well, the care team, but I think also the
whole church,
the global church.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I think we're talking a lot about, which is great, our online presence and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're about to see a major fallout with addictions resurfacing.
Yep.
The numbers on domestic abuse are spiking right now because
anxiety,
yeah,
stress, depression, all of this. So
Yeah.
we were talking about how do we minister to those people. So that's
Right.
what the care team does. The care team really is a structured team that looks after the saints of Life Chapel. Now, that doesn't give anybody the excuse not to look after their neighbor.
Right.
Because we're all called to look after our neighbors. So everybody I talk to basically is like, yeah, we got to get back to church.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
So that's May 17th.
Right.
And we're having a 9:00 service. We're only going to have a capacity for about 100.
Yeah.
Because we're going to give everybody a lot of room. We'll be asking for strict social distancing during that time. There's actually information that'll be coming out this weekend and next weekend, so you'll actually have something in your hands or an email.
Yeah.
And if you're not on the email list and you want to be on the email list, contact us here at the church. You can message us through Facebook or get with Mariah, and we can get you on the email list because there's some great emails being put out every week now.
Right.
So May 17th, we come back, social distancing.
And the social distancing thing is, if nothing else, out of respect for those who are both vulnerable and our leadership and, the national leadership and our state leadership. And
Right.
we're going to go with their recommendations until they recommend something
Right.
else because we just want to.
Well, we have 3 phases.
Yeah.
And the first stage is strict.
Yeah.
Social distancing. The second phase is relaxed, moderate.
Right.
Moderate, where it's like if you know somebody's comfortable with a hug or a handshake, that's fine. If not, then respect that. Mm-hmm. Lastly, there's relaxed,
And that, yeah.
social distancing where it's phased out.
And we don't have dates for those.
We're not putting dates on anything except our launch.
Yeah.
Our relaunch is May 17th, and then we're just going to see how this works. And we have a 9:00, a 10:45 in person right here at Life Chapel, and then also we will be online at 10:45. We will also have a Life Chapel leader that will be online moderating the comments, engaging people. So we're taking that serious. That's just not something we're just pushing off into a corner. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to change. That dynamic will probably be even escalated as we go forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think our online presence is here to stay.
Probably.
We just have to figure out how to enhance it and how to make it the best possible.
Right. And just sort of a warning, I think, we've talked about this, is that those live services, when it gets to being really actually live, mm-hmm. that quality is probably going to dip a little bit.
Yeah,
especially for the first few weeks.
But you've been putting 20, 25 hours a week in on it.
Right. So the advantage to what we've been doing is we've been able to go back, edit, mm-hmm. Bring in, change the colors. We
mix all the sound.
Yeah, we have somebody remix all the sound, all of that stuff. And so we won't have that opportunity when we're actually live. But some of the things we're talking about is putting out a live service that is just for participatory, so that people can get in on the actual service when it's happening, but then also maybe simultaneously recording the service and then being able to mix it and put out a really good recording of the service for later in the week, something like that. We're kind of going through all the ideas and brainstorming.
Well, this is all new territory. We've never done any of this before.
Right. And neither of us are very tech oriented. Yeah. I really like just having people here, and just being able to...
And that's our goal.
Yeah, interact with people.
So we're going to try to make it as safe as possible so people feel comfortable coming.
Right.
We want people to feel comfortable coming. And so we're going to do everything in our power to make that happen.
Yeah. And I'm reminded, when talking about this subject of Galatians 5, of basically the fruit of the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. But the end of that, I think, is really interesting. He says, against such things, there is no law. And so he's saying there's no law against being loving, kind, gentle, forbearing, long-suffering. There's no law against that. And so as we're moving forward, and I think as individuals, and as a church, I think we all have our opinions on what could have been done better, on how we can move forward. But I think keeping the fruit of the Spirit at the forefront of our minds and recognizing when Paul was talking about how to conduct themselves, the church of Galatia, when he was instructing them how to conduct themselves in public, he was saying, do the things against which nobody can level an accusation.
Right.
If you are loving, kind, and this is long suffering.
Yeah, that's so good.
This for many of us, I know many of us are done with it. We're just like, forget about it. We're not nervous about it. But this is what it means to be long suffering. This is what it means to be forbearing. This is what it means to bear each other's burdens. Kindness and gentleness and all of those things. It's wrapped up in this, in looking at our neighbors and saying, you know what, maybe I'm a little antsy to get out and just get back to normal life and just, forget everything. And maybe I have my own opinions that inform that desire. But at the same time, I'm going to do the thing that Paul tells the church of Galatia. There's no law against this, love, kindness, gentleness. Anyway, so I think
you know what long suffering means?
Suffering for a long
being okay with suffering a long time. Not just suffering a long time.
Right.
But being okay with it.
Yeah.
And saying, I'll make it.
Yeah.
And I think that may be one of the toughest for most people.
Right.
Is being okay with suffering a long time, knowing we're going to make it.
Yeah.
Because that's what's causing a lot of stress right now. That's what's causing the people to fall back into addictions and people to all that.
And I think some of the most dangerous things are that you see this beginning to, or people's response to all of this and how we should move forward, beginning to separate along, you could call it party lines, but people getting into their silos. And these people are all saying this, and these people are all saying this. And I think the church has to challenge that paradigm. Because a family suffers with each other. And I think it's important for us to understand that, whether you're on the side of we need to lock this thing down until no one is in danger ever again, or however you feel, or you're on the side of we need to move on with life. We need to understand that there are priorities that are battling. So on the one side, you have people that are losing their jobs, that are losing their livelihoods. You have people that will enter into depression. You have people that will probably at least contemplate, and the percentage is there's a good amount of people who are going to commit suicide because they've lost their job. So you have that, and that's a real issue.
Yeah.
And so I think the people over here on this side who are worried about people's lives need to have some compassion for whatever they're saying. This is what they're afraid of. They're afraid of that losing.
And most people act out of their fears, especially in times like these.
Right. Exactly.
They're just simply acting out of their fears, or they're talking out of their fear.
Yeah.
Or they're, responding out of their fear. So
right. And then on the other side, you've got those who are wanting, to keep people safe and who are, and many of those people are people who have witnessed somebody getting sick. Maybe they're on the front lines, they're a nurse, they're somebody, and so being this group of people, being compassionate towards them and understanding that they're seeing something that you're not. And when you confront sickness, illness, death, suffering, it's very different. It becomes very not theoretical.
So for one, they're saying this is about saving people.
Right.
For another, this could be about save me because I've lost my job. I'm about to lose my house. I'm about to lose my car.
But
so it's both of them that's the struggle, is how do we come together and say we will honor, respect,
right,
love one another, care for one another, let those fruit of the Spirit kind of work its way into that webbing to say this is how the church is going to respond. It's kind of where I went on Sunday.
I was thinking about that. Yeah,
believing that this is the time for the church to rise up and really show the world how to respond.
Yeah,
because there's a whole lot of stuff that I would do or wouldn't do, as everybody is, but I'm just trying to filter this through and say, what does God want me to do during this time to help somebody else move forward?
Yeah.
And
I think that's
important.
That's why staying part of the family and part of the body is so important, because there are certain things you just wouldn't do to your family. Right. Somebody out there can have an opinion, but when, say your uncle, has lost his job, you're going to respond differently to your uncle. And that's what the church is supposed to be. We're allowing each other to level each other out. We're allowing ourselves to level each other out, knock off the rough edges, bring us sort of back to center and compassion and understanding for each other. And that's where the church, I think, can shine a light in a way that I don't know of any other organization in the world right now that has the ability to do such a thing.
And that's what the gifts do. The gifts are for the edifying, the knocking off of the rough edges, the building up, the encouragement of saying, come on, hang in there. The fruit is where we should love one another, serve one another. But then when we don't, we have the gifts to come over here and say, let's correct this.
Right.
That's why we got to have both of them.
Right.
So, there's a lot going on, but I'm excited to get back. And we're also doing Zoom groups.
Yes.
So
for
community groups, we're not going to be doing in-person groups right now. I think that's obvious as to why. But I'm excited because we're doing Zoom groups. And what's funny is that the groups don't actually start until the week of the 17th.
Yeah.
So the 17th is the last Sunday you would sign up, or you can actually just jump in. But and the seniors, Patty and Lynn Masters, have already started to get their people used to the idea of Zoom, because their group is 55 and up.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are like, never done Zoom before.
A lot of us.
A
lot of us. A lot of us have a hard time with.
Yes, this is true. This is true.
Yeah, you're part of that group.
But yes, last night I had 2 Zooms and they worked perfect.
Wow.
I actually clicked the button and it worked.
That's great.
So
I'm very proud of you.
I achieved something.
Haven't quite figured out how to plug headphones in and use headphones instead of just screaming into the echoing camera.
I did last night. My first meeting, the couple I was talking to, they said, Pastor, you're kind of breaking up a little. So I plugged in my headphones, put in my earpods, and
do you know why? Do you know why you're breaking up a little?
Why?
Because you talk on Zoom like this. You talk on Zoom. Hey,
I don't know if they can hear me.
Breaking up.
I'm trying to yell because they're over in Oregon. The people I was talking to, I was yelling all the way to Oregon.
Right. It's not a can with a string. It's, hey guys, could you hear me? People listening to this are going to be sorry, but that is how everybody needs to experience Pastor on a Zoom, because it is so loud.
Was sitting with me yesterday on a Zoom, and she had one finger in her ear the whole conversation.
Yeah.
And I kept looking at her.
The reason it's breaking up is because your iPad is going, oh my goodness, too loud. Your iPad is covering its ears. It can't hear you because you're so loud.
Oh, man.
So that's why. Welcome.
Anyway, we're going
to start calling this the weekly roast. That's what we're going to start calling this.
I think we should. And then I think afterwards you should take me out for dinner.
That's true. But you pay also. I love that idea. I should take you out to pay for me for dinner. That's my favorite kind of dinner. But Zoom groups are going to be fun.
Because whoever's getting roast usually gets a free dinner out of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's. Oh, no. I'm saying you should give me a free dinner.
I know what you're saying.
For doing such a good job of roasting you.
But I'm telling you how it really works. Yeah. A real roast.
Oh. All right. So let's talk about some of the fundamentals of Zoom, some of the things you're learning for people out there who are going to be joining Zoom groups.
Very good. Very good. So the first thing is go to YouTube and type in how to use Zoom.
Nice.
That's it.
And then
so one thing I'm learning.
Second, part 2, take the advice.
Take the advice. True.
Implement.
But one thing I'm learning is it functions different from an iPad to a laptop.
To a phone.
Yeah. So you have to kind of figure out what it is. So I use my iPad almost strictly for Zoom calls.
As do I, yeah.
Because I kind of understand the format. Mm-hmm. There's a certain place you can click to actually chat, and so that keeps you from having to interrupt the speaker.
Yeah.
You can actually type in thoughts or questions.
And on an iPad or a phone, there's actually, I haven't used the computer, but on an iPad or a phone, there's actually a place where you can, there's like a button that says raise hand. Yes. And so probably ideally for the type of groups that we're going to be doing is when you enter. So here's the number one thing to remember, which you always forget.
Okay.
Is when you enter the Zoom meeting, you are muted.
No, yes.
By default.
I know that.
You always may.
Yeah, I know that.
Dad always enters the Zoom meeting.
I forget it, but I know it.
And I'm like, Pastor, we can't hear you. Pastor, we can't. And then I wish I could just do it to the camera because it's just a finger, like just poking at you.
So, no, I got it now. But I forget it. Yeah. But I know it. I just forget it.
When you enter a Zoom meeting, you are muted by default. So you have to touch the screen and go up. There's a little microphone
button. If it's your iPad.
Button. Yeah. Yeah. If it's a phone or an iPad, you have to touch the screen, go up and unmute it. Now, the thing is, the reason it's muted by default is because probably most people outside of your initial greeting, hey, I'm here, thanks should then mute.
Right.
Because what happens is some people are wearing headphones, some people aren't. And so this is just a quick audio lesson for everybody.
All right.
So what happens is your iPad or phone can hear your iPad or phone. Okay.
Yes.
So when you have a voice coming out, your microphone, when you have a voice coming out of your speaker, your microphone is also picking that up. Right. So that's what's happening when you get that echo effect, right?
Yep.
So the more people who have their phone unmuted, the more you're going to get echoes throughout that.
Not just echoes, dogs barking, kids crying,
yes,
crunching ice,
yes,
smacking lips,
and then that it only allows so much volume.
Burping.
That's yes.
Everything. I mean, there's all kinds of like horror stories of stuff that's happened with people when they're on a Zoom and they forgot they were on a Zoom.
Right. But that's why it cuts out so much, is because you've got so much volume coming in from so many that the call cuts the sound out because it's compressing that sound.
Gotcha.
So it's good to use headphones. Headphones are ideal. If you're with two people, just keep muted as much as possible. And then when it comes time for like some sort of discussion, touch the button or find a way to indicate you would like to raise your hand or you would like to say something. And so that's the disadvantage. I think the thing that's going to be difficult about using Zoom groups as opposed to being there in real life, which is good. We'll miss once we get together in real life. It's good that we miss things every once in a while.
You know what it does is this is stretching me.
Yeah,
I feel like, what was it in the 90s, that little Stretch guy?
Stretch Armstrong. Yeah,
Stretch Armstrong. I feel like that guy.
I was always disappointed with how not stretchy. He was mostly squishy. They should have called him Squish Armstrong. Like his arms barely moved.
I feel like that guy. I feel like somebody's got one arm in the 80s and somebody else has the other arm in 2050 and they're just stretching me and I'm like, ah!
Oh, wow.
So anyway, but I'm learning. So, but we're being forced to learn, and it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
So Sharon has this thing that she says that when you hit about 50, this is why people go into midlife crisis. Probably, it's probably known or assume men more than women, but is because their brain gets tired of doing the same thing over and over again. And if you don't force it to learn something new, then it will go wandering looking for something new.
Oh, that's an interesting theory, yeah.
Yeah. So this is what happens with midlife crisis and men with gold chains and cars and women and hobbies and, who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
So what she has, been encouraging me to do is take this opportunity and use it to learn new stuff.
Right.
So I don't go get a gold chain.
Yeah, so you already went through the motorcycle phase, so I hope we're safe at this point. Like I
did go through the motorcycle phase. Yeah.
So
although I'm looking at motorcycles again, as well as classic cars.
I've got to sell my old motorcycle. I haven't ridden it.
Remind me, I got somebody that'll buy your motorcycle.
Do you?
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
So remind me.
Well, we won't talk about price, but let's talk about that later because I need to sell that thing, man. We are ready to get rid of the clutter. I'll tell you what. Anyway, back to the topic at hand.
So Zoom calls.
So that's a couple things to remember. You start off muted.
I encouraged our team, our community leaders, to actually get on with one another and play with it.
Yeah.
So the first group, I said, don't be afraid if your first group is just everybody figuring out all the buttons.
Right.
Don't worry if you spend the whole 30 or 45 minutes just everybody trying to figure out what button do I hit here, what do I do there.
Yeah.
Although we sent a ton of resources out, Mariah did a great job in doing some online training, but still, it's something you almost just have to play with.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would encourage, if you're going to be in a Zoom group, get on a call with somebody, Zoom in with somebody.
Yeah, download the app.
And just play with it. Just get on there and learn how to type and learn how to mute it and actually engage in conversation. This is a great way to kind of get in touch with people again.
Yeah. And another way, I mean, here's an idea for some groups out there is another way to do it, because you want to have conversation. You want to have that moment where everybody's kind of create a text group or an email group or something like that to where during the
True. Yeah, that would be great.
During the Zoom group, somebody can text in, I've got this question. And then depending on how your group feels or how people want to do things, you could also have sort of like a question moderator or a comment moderator.
Yeah, I was on one this morning, and that's what they had, is there was a guy running the group, and then he said, Ann is going to be monitoring all questions, and she'll get me the questions that I need to answer.
And then she reads it instead of everybody trying to cut in and ask their question, so that could be a way to sort of facilitate that.
And the one thing I did last night with our care team is I went around the circle and I just said, all right, we're going to go one by one. So that's where you could probably, for a Zoom group, is the moderator or the group leader say, the lesson, teach the lesson, ask the question, and then say, all right, we're going to go around one by one. And what it also does is it kind of forces everybody to talk.
Yeah, which is good.
So the first couple of people were like, oh, well, they kind of, by the time we got to the third one, they already had notes made. They were ready to talk. Yeah. They were ready to roll.
So pick the extroverts first is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. Pick the people that just can, talk to the wind and let them go for a few minutes. And what I did was I also asked them to stick to about 3 minutes because when you've got, I think last night we had 9, 10 on the group. So if it's 3 minutes apiece, there's 30 minutes right there.
Yeah, it disappears.
But I think that's going to be a fun thing for us. Even after we go back to our regular groups, whenever that's in phase 3, we're going to still have probably some Zoom groups.
Right, have an option for Zoom groups. That's good.
I think there's just some people that wouldn't mind being on a group if I didn't have to get up, get dressed. I just got home from work. I'm tired. Yeah. If I could just, put on a shirt that looked decent and just don't let the camera fall.
Right, exactly.
So I got to, who was it? It was, who was Superman that had the accident Reeves. Christopher Reeves.
Christopher Reeves, yeah.
His son is a news guy in California.
Was it him? I saw that picture.
That was one of them. Yeah. And so, there's been a bunch of them, but he's sitting there in a suit and tie doing the news, and the camera falls, and he's in his underwear.
Yeah.
So
I saw he put out a statement. He said it was shorts. He swears. He's like, I was wearing shorts. shorts. Yeah.
Anyway, so just don't let the camera fall.
Don't let the camera fall.
There you go.
And I think it gives people an opportunity to get involved. Especially. I have a certain level of empathy now, especially for like parents of newborns, because it's nearly. Within that first 6 months, first year, it's nearly impossible to have a consistent. Where you go out every evening. For
the baby's going down at 7, 8 o'clock.
Right, and hopefully. I'm hoping by like the third or fourth kid or whatever, we'll just have that figured out. But, there's a certain level of empathy I think we all have to have. So that would give them the opportunity to just put it on mute and at least be able to listen in on conversation and listen in on things like that, So that would be really cool. And that's an opportunity to, groups could actually Zoom like one person in,
right?
So you actually have a physical group, but then also you set up a phone or something, make sure that it can hear everyone clearly.
That would be good. Yeah.
But then you can involve, that one or two people who are usually in their group, but maybe, their work schedule changed or something like that. I think that's a really good opportunity.
So we're gonna do a hybrid. We're gonna do once we get to phase 3, we'll have regular groups, and I still don't know even what to call the services. In-person gatherings? Are they on location gatherings? Are they chapel gatherings, online gatherings? So we're trying to figure out all that language so that it's very clear and people understand exactly what we mean.
Yeah, and we're also talking about possibly, put in the comments, maybe a thought on this. We're talking about maybe, because during that first phase especially, we won't be doing a physical offering.
Right.
We won't be passing buckets, things like that.
Right.
So we're talking about how we could rearrange our service to maybe just keep a flow so that the music somehow goes straight into the sermon, something like that. Because I really like that vibe.
So the thing we'd have to figure out is how to move the offering, announcements, and the kids' dismissal.
Yeah.
That's the 3 things we have to figure out. We can take care of the offering fairly easy.
Right.
Is just put buckets by the kiosk in the back. And people can get up or just sit in the chairs and give on your phone. Yeah. That would be an easy one. Announcements, that would be an easy one. I think we could put them at the front, the end.
Yeah, online.
Drop them online.
Have them in the lobby,
Yeah. But it's that dismissal time. So how do we do that and keep that flow happening?
This is why I wish we could just have church all day. I know, I'm the only one. But here's what I think would be so cool is have every week have sort of a worship and then like prophetic sermon time and then a break and then a teaching after that. Do something where it's like you've got an hour of worship and then like a sermon of some sort and then we break and we all, grab a cup of coffee,
now back
whatever.
In the old days, like when I was a kid.
Right, it was like reversed.
It was reversed. 10 to 11 was Sunday school. Everybody went straight to Sunday school.
Yeah.
And then at 11, everybody went into the main sanctuary, and we had church. I mean, full-on church.
Right.
From 11 to 12. And I mean, in that 1 hour, they had throwdown church.
Yeah.
I mean...
But you had the opportunity to... Yeah. Because that's, I think, the battle of the modern church is trying to find a way to marry the information that people need to continue to grow as Christians.
And the want.
Yeah. Yeah, and then fulfill that desire to be inspired. That
want.
I would
That's
say,
what they want.
Yeah, it is a want. I would say it's to some degree a need.
It is a need.
Yeah,
but they want it. So then they'll accept it as a need.
Right.
Because you're kind of feeding their wants.
And the people who, and this is the problem, then you've got sort of, again, the splitting thing is something I'm really concerned about, sort of, because I see it in all realms. You've got this split where you've got these people who are very heavy into inspiration, and preachers who primarily do inspiration attract huge crowds. But then you've got all of the people who have the knowledge that really should balance
deeper things of God.
That should balance out that inspiration side, but then they end up having to just separate. Yeah. And actually this church, so the Giants guy, I'm still thinking about him. The church that he did this 6-hour lecture at was a huge mega church. And I want to look into them. They're called, but he's actually the teaching, the resident, he's like, his title is like resident scholar or something. He's a doctorate, he's got 3 masters, all of that stuff. And so somehow they've learned how to marry that.
But I'm wondering, is that in the large group setting? Or was this recorded in the small group setting?
I'm assuming it was. So it was large. He was on the main stage. I mean, they had the lights, the smoke, the whole thing.
So this was a video.
But I'm assuming, I was watching a video. But I'm assuming it was on a different day than Sunday.
Gotcha.
Because you could hear, you don't ever see the crowd, but you could hear it was a robust cheer
Right.
when he would hit a good point. But it was clear, it was obviously 6 hours in one day. And so it was like 4 different sessions. So it was clearly, and it was the presentation of his book. It's called The Unseen Realm. I can't wait to get it. I'm so excited. He's got angels, demons, the unseen realm. And then
All of these are books?
yeah.
Okay.
And then, and if you've read them, I mean, I haven't read them. So like if he says something weird in there, like, don't,
Yeah.
I mean, like
Number one, don't spoil it. But if it's really bad,
yeah.
just forgive me for what I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But what I do love about him is he introduces his talks with, listen, I'm going to present some ideas that are going to be foreign to you. But the thing, like, I'm a regular Christian. He always says that. I'm a regular Christian. Jesus died so I can be saved. He goes through, the basic fundamentals of a
His
Christian.
little doxology.
Yep, exactly. And then kind of gets into, because really what he challenges is, a lot of it is interpretation. Like a lot of the things that are interpreted
Okay.
in recent years as like, sons of God, kings of Israel, they're all this same word. But translators have been trying to kind of avoid this weird thing, but he's basically done the research and saying, no, these are spiritual beings that exist. They, so anyway.
Wow.
That I can't
So this
stop
goes
myself.
back,
Yeah.
but this goes back to what I preached on Sunday.
Right.
Is you got these 2 churches
Yes.
and, they're like, well, we can't marry.
Right.
We can't integrate. And there has to be a way to do it, or he wouldn't have asked us to do it.
Absolutely.
He would not have asked us to walk in the fruits and the gifts if there was no way to interrelate those or intermarry those.
Right. And I think right now, the real danger is that you've got fruits churches, you've got gifts churches, but then you've also got teaching churches and preaching churches, inspirational churches,
But I
informational
think you could
churches.
probably fit those into subcircles of these.
Probably, but I would say there are teaching fruit churches and
Yes.
there are preaching fruits churches, and
Right.
those guys probably wouldn't connect to
Exactly.
each other.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying,
you can definitely cut the pie into pieces on both
Right.
sides of this.
So the Christian body is so disconnected and disjointed. I think what you were talking about is a timely message that right now more than ever we need to get a hold of.
Yeah.
I was thinking about my own calling or gifting or whatever. We've had some intense discussions in the
Yes.
past few weeks
Yes.
about some things that I that I'm passionate about. But I think about, I thought the other day, I kind of thought jokingly in my head, I feel like I am the thorn in the flesh of you and Life Chapel and the people.
That's not true at
No.
all.
What I'm saying is God will not release you from me. I'm going to keep bringing it. I'm going to keep.
No.
But here's what I thought is that's a really that's a really arrogant thing
For you to think
for me to think
that you're that powerful?
because the other thing is God will not release you from me either, because God's given me this church, and I'm saying me, but I'm thinking each of us as individuals
Right.
is to knock off my hard edges, to knock off
That's the whole point of the
things-
body.
Exactly.
And that's the whole point of coming together, is so that you learn. Of course, I think probably, I don't know, I may be wrong, but one of the first things you started preaching when you came here is the reason that we have to have diversity in the church is if everybody goes over here and says and does and thinks the same thing, there's no need for the gifts of the Spirit.
Right.
Or, if I'm not mistaken, but I remember you talking about that early on, about the importance of us coming together and being different and being okay with being different.
Right.
Because ultimately it's going to
But then also
knock off the rough edges.
Yeah, and I think we're okay with being different, but also we have to become more similar in a sense. And I think that's where the church challenges the cultural paradigm of like, be yourself, and be your true self, and all of those things is really the more accurate phrasing of that would be be the most extreme version of you. Whatever your interest is, whatever your passion is, whatever.
That's a nice way to say it. I would say be the most weird you.
Yeah. Or
be the most crazy you.
Right. Is leave everybody behind. You know, divorce whoever you have to divorce. Get rid of your kids. Do you. You know. Whereas the church says, yes, we need that. We need you to be you, but at the same time, all of us have to become a little bit less of us.
So go to 1 Corinthians chapter 12.
Okay.
Because this is perfect. I wasn't thinking about doing this, but
yeah. And I liked this format last week where we got to.
Yeah, it took us a while to get there last week, though. We were like out of control for the first 40 minutes.
I think we just did that again. Did we not just do that?
No, we've been serious almost this whole time.
That's true. You're right up past the mic there. You have to get back in the mic. There you go.
On.
All right.
1 Corinthians 12, and where he starts to say, you're different but the same. Same spirit.
Now there are a variety. Yeah.
Variety of
verse
gifts.
4.
4. Okay.
There are a variety of gifts, but the same Spirit.
Same Spirit.
And there are varieties of service, but the same Lord. And there are varieties of activities, but it is the same God who empowers them all in everyone. To each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good. For to one is given through the Spirit the utterance of wisdom, and to another the utterance of knowledge, according to the same Spirit.
Same Spirit. See, there's that word "same" keeps coming up.
Right. To another faith by the same Spirit. To another gifts of healing by one Spirit. To another the working of miracles. To another prophecy. To another the ability to distinguish between spirits. To another various kinds of tongues. To another the interpretation of tongues. All these are empowered by one and the same Spirit, who apportions to each individual as he wills.
So here's the challenge.
Yeah.
Is I was raised, not so much you, but I was raised to where oneness, as in unity, togetherness, meant sameness.
Right.
That we were one because we were all the same.
Wow.
That's not what that says.
No.
It says the sameness is in God.
Yeah.
The oneness is in God.
Right.
The diversity is here.
Yeah.
So it's okay for us to have, there's words. What's some of those words about explaining us? Diverse.
Given manifestation of the Spirit, through the Spirit, utterance of wisdom. That one, like the list, utterance of wisdom, knowledge.
Start at
according.
verse 4 again. What's it say?
Yeah. Varieties of gifts. Varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit. There are varieties of service. But the same Lord. There are varieties of activity, but it is the same God who empowers them all in everyone.
So variety and sameness. Somehow we got rid of all the variety.
Yeah.
And we made sameness the goal, that we all look the same, we use the same language, we sang the same songs, we preach the same sermons.
Right.
That's where the variety should be.
Yeah.
Is that as a body of believers, there's going to be variety of people, but the sameness is found in God, in that we all have the same God, we all have the same Lord. What's the three sames there? Same service, one service.
Yeah.
You know,
distinguish the Spirit who empowers each. To each is given manifestation of the Spirit for the common good.
Common good.
But it is the same God who empowers them all.
Same God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's the challenge, is that we try to, because those churches that do differentiate into, and I didn't even think about that, but if you just look at the fruit and then you get the preaching churches, teaching churches.
Yeah.
How many different ways can that be broken up? Same way over here on the army of God, family of God, army of God. That can be broken up too. Teaching churches, preaching churches.
Because I mean,
prayer churches, prophetic churches.
To get lost on that for a second, if you just think about like the army of God types, you've got the healing. Yeah. The sort of, and that comes with a certain temperament, people who want to heal everybody, love everybody, see healing all the time. And then people who want to war against demons, and people who, those guys are, you would think all those would come. They don't, you know? And so I think that, but I think the thing that people don't, the thing that we don't recognize is how painful bringing together difference
Yeah.
is. And I think
And
that's
how hard
the thing.
it is on the flesh.
Right.
The flesh does not want to surrender. The flesh is fighting for its space.
Yeah.
Give me my space.
Yeah. And I think your individual calling wants to always show itself. There's a hubris there of where is the space for my individual calling? Where is the space for my gift? Where's the space for my thing? Whereas when you're a part of a body, there isn't always space for your calling. There isn't always space for your gifting, right? You have to find that space to fit in. But that is something where I think it's been a disadvantage to so easily find people like us, and we have to become more intentional because 50 years ago, 60 years ago, maybe not even that long ago, you basically went to church in near to your community.
Yeah.
Right.
Community type churches.
And then you just had to deal with those people. I mean, you could go down the street to another church, but generally it was the same type of people.
But also, most people live in a community because of similarity.
Right. Yeah.
Same economics, same education.
Yeah.
Back years ago, 100 years ago, it was same ethnicity. So you would have all your Italians in one area, all of your Chinese in another area. We talked about that Sunday. They'd have Chinatown and Little Italy. And
yeah.
I mean, even here, you've got Polish Village in Toledo. You got the Polish Village. You've got this, the South End. You got all these different communities that they're all similar. So going to church was not even that hard. I'm sure it was still challenging.
Well, but I think still you've got, even if, I think the thing that would make it more challenging, in my opinion, the argument that I'm making is that they were forced into a certain level of diversity, because even if they were all the same ethnicity or came from the same culture, you've got different temperaments that have to come together.
Yeah.
So if you're Italian, say, just make it the most basic thing, just for an example, everyone who's Italian is completely different. I mean, and so
every nationality has personalities.
You're forced into battling temperaments, and
that's true.
And there was a certain expectation that you're going to fall in line to some degree. Now that can go way off the course here. I think where we are now, though, is it's so easy to just connect to a church that has your temperament, that is led by somebody.
Well, we become a mobile society, and we find people like ourselves.
Right. And you find a church that's led by somebody who's like you. So then all the church basically get to be like you. And I think this is where we have to become intentional about staying together, fighting it out. Nobody, we're not leaving this family. We're just, one thing that I shouldn't say that. Never mind.
Okay. We'll leave that one thing alone.
Yeah. But then it goes on to say, for just as the body is one and has many members, all the members of the body through many are one body, so it is with Christ. For in one spirit we were all baptized into one body. Jews.
How many times is one used there?
So many times.
Yeah, it just keeps over and over again.
Yeah. Jews or Greeks, slaves, free, all were made to drink of one spirit. For the body does not consist of one member, but many. If the foot should say, and then he uses some examples that parts of the body say they don't need each other. Well, I'll just read it. If the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would be the sense of hearing? If the whole body were an ear, where would... And I think that's what we've fallen into.
Yeah.
Is there are churches that are eyes, there are churches that are ears. And because we don't have those other giftings to join us, we have huge blind spots.
So do you think Corinthians, there was no segmented groups?
Right.
The book of Corinthians was written to a city that had a church.
Yeah. If you live in Corinth, you go to the Corinthian church.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's meeting all over the place.
Right.
But it's just one church.
Right.
And because our society has become so segmented in multiple ways, but religiously, that you have that option of finding the church that says, oh, we just want to hear.
Yeah.
Or we just want to see.
Yeah.
Or we just want to speak. Or
yeah.
yeah.
And I think it comes with an underlying, philosophy of any group of people can be a church. And I think that's something that in the next few years,
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah,
where people get together and just say, "Oh, we can be a church."
And that's just not what the Bible has to say.
Yeah.
The church has a certain
structure and order,
diversity of spiritual giftings. So I think that's something, and I don't, I'm not.
That's interesting.
I'm not prepared to go into my whole speech on that, but that's something in the next few years. I think that if the church is going to survive, we are going to have to take on some of these philosophies head on, because one of the things that I've been discovering is that there's an underlying worldview to every action. Right? So there's a big philosophy that governs. So one of the things that has sort of arisen is that has allowed everyone to believe any group of people can be a church is this idea of equity. Like just because you're a pastor and pastors sort of did this, they say, I'm a pastor, but I'm just like you. There's nothing that's different about me. And it's like, well, hopefully that's not true. Right. Hopefully the difference is you're called to be a pastor, because that's what the Bible says. I mean, that's what the scripture says, is there are those who are called to be apostles, who are called to be prophets, who are called to be evangelists. And so hopefully there is something different about you, and I think, but we repeated this.
Yeah, but that was a swing, a pendulum swing.
Yeah.
From this pastor that was kind of put on a pedestal, honored, respected, loved.
Right.
Pastors used to be
feared, probably.
Feared.
Yeah.
Pastors used to be the number one or number two most respected people in the community, and that was right around like policemen and firemen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now they're like 15th out of 20.
Yeah. Or they're the enemy of the community, depending on the community.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And so, but that pendulum swung in that pastors were trying to, I think, be respectful, but the people were also like, let's pull that guy down a notch or two.
Yeah.
And the pastor was trying to respond in a way that, I think it was like the perfect storm that's put the pastor into a position, not here, but in some churches, where he is just some guy that just happens to be paid to keep everybody coming together.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not a big deal.
That guy's, he just, I like that term. He just happened to be paid.
Yeah.
That's not how things happen. And this is about to get me on a soapbox, but this is the thing with public servants of any realm.
Right.
No, your governor didn't just happen to become a governor. You know what I mean? He dedicated a certain amount of his life to becoming that governor. Now, he could be a bad one.
True.
Just like there can be a bad pastor, but that doesn't mean that it just happened. That doesn't mean that you could just walk up and be like, hey, everybody vote for me, and everybody will just vote for you. I think this is the thing people don't understand about successful people. Successful people are not there on accident.
Yeah, true.
Now, you can argue that they're bad, successful people. That's completely fine, but they're purposeful.
Yeah.
Right? They're there on purpose.
They're intentional.
Yeah. So the same thing with the callings. You can say that somebody who's walking in a prophetic gifting uses that prophetic gifting in a poor way. That doesn't mean that you're the same. That doesn't mean that, and the same thing can be said for people with gifts of administration or all the other gifts in the body.
Yeah, every gift,
is those people are made a certain way, and you can't. I was thinking about this yesterday in sort of because I was looking at that church, the mega church with the Michael Heiser was teaching at, and I was thinking, man, how did this church achieve this? And we oftentimes I think pastors of churches who, I should just say myself, I've thought when I look at a mega church that anyone could do that. All they do is really just give people what they want to hear and give them a certain message, and that's been challenged over and over again. But last night I was thinking about, the truth is, not anyone can do that.
No.
The guy who's super passionate about the Bible or the prophetic or teaching or can't just become a megachurch pastor.
So we were raised in a culture to where every conference you went to, you would hear basically two things. three things, but soul winning, preaching, soul winning, prayer, fasting. Prayer and fasting were usually together. So that's why I said 2 to begin with, but that's what you heard. Yeah. And if you will go do this, you can have a church of 500 or 1,000 or 1,500. Come on. Come on. Somebody needs to pray. Somebody needs to fast, you know?
Yeah.
And your Grandpa Trammell, prayed and fasted more than anybody I know, even to this day. He'll go on a 2 or 3 day fast. He's 85 years old. I told him, look, quit fasting. You're already into heaven. You've scored all the points. You've done everything you need to do. Yeah. You've chalked up all the marks. I mean, it's like, you just relax.
Yeah.
If anybody could do it with prayer and fasting, my father-in-law would have done it.
Right.
Because he prayed and fasted.
Right.
He had a gifting that was not geared toward that personality factor.
Right.
So there's multiple components that come together to make that happen.
And he has a set of values that accompany his gifting.
Exactly.
So
all those components come together.
Because his most passionate thing was prayer and fasting, he isn't reaching out to try and build a 1,000-person church. People have values that accompany their gifting. And so the problem is if we're geared towards just if we allow our gifting to be isolated without the other giftings of the body, well, then the underlying current is our values are also isolated. And so what we value, then you get a church that's just one thing, right? And so the example of the megachurch. Now, you can argue that there are good megachurch pastors and there are bad megachurch pastors, but they're not there accidentally.
Right.
They're there because the scripture, the anointings of the Lord are without repentance. You know, at some point they were anointed for a certain thing and they have really honed in on that gift, and that is purposeful, and now can people use their gifting poorly? Absolutely. But I think it's time for us in the church to recognize, again, we're different. We're not all the same.
Okay.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
And I think maybe maybe the mistake that, and we'll have to kind of wrap up with this because we're near the hour mark, but maybe the mistake that the church made is that instead of raising up the other giftings and calling the best out in all the giftings, we instead tried to pull down the vocal ones or the visible ones. Yeah. And so instead of elevating
all gifts,
what we did is we said, well, really the pastor's not special. No, the pastor's special, maybe not more special than the person who has, but he's called to do that thing, you know? So anyway.
That's good.
Weird soapbox to wrap it up on, but
man.
All right, you got 30 seconds to say a prayer.
All right, Lord, we thank you for our time together, and we just thank you for the wisdom that you give us daily to lead. And Lord, we pray for all of those that are watching or listening today, and we just pray that they would, Lord, find their gifting. And then, Lord, let us not diminish that gift, but, Lord, let us celebrate one another as we together do the work of the kingdom. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.